Am I the a-hole for telling my sister to stop using my house as a getaway from her husband? This happened recently, and I'm torn between feeling guilty and feeling justified, so I need some outside perspective. Here's the situation. I, 29F, have been married to my husband, Tom, 31M, for 3 years. We recently bought our first house about a year ago, and things had been going well. It's a modest, cozy place in a quiet neighborhood. Exactly what we wanted. Tom and I both work full-time, and we've been enjoying the peace and privacy of our new home, settling into married life. It's been a huge milestone for us, one we were excited to experience together. Everything was fine until my older sister, Claire, 34F, started using our home as her personal getaway from her husband, Jake, 35M. Let me give you some background. Claire and Jake have been married for 5 years, and they have a pretty rocky relationship. Honestly, I've never understood what keeps them together. They fight over everything: money, their jobs, even the smallest things like where to go for dinner. One time, they had an explosive argument over which color to paint their living room. Claire is quick-tempered, and Jake can be stubborn, so things escalate fast. Whenever they fight, Claire storms out, and instead of going to a friend's house or her mom's, which is 15 minutes away, she comes straight to my place. She doesn't ask if it's okay. She just shows up, usually teary-eyed or fuming, ready to vent. At first, I didn't mind. I get it. She needs a place to cool off, and I'm her sister. We're supposed to be there for each other, right? Started small. The first time she came over, it was about 6 months ago, and she arrived in the middle of the night. Tom and I were watching TV when she burst through the door, sobbing. Apparently, she and Jake had gotten into another fight, this time about finances. She didn't explain much, just collapsed on our couch and started crying. I sat with her, rubbing her back, telling her it would be okay. Tom made us tea while Claire vented for a good hour about how Jake was irresponsible with their money, spending too much on unnecessary things and not thinking about their future. I could feel Tom's discomfort growing as the night went on, but he didn't say anything. He just sat there, sipping his tea and pretending to watch the TV. That night, Claire stayed in our guest room. The next morning, she thanked us for letting her crash and promised it wouldn't become a habit. And for a while, it wasn't. But then it happened again. The next time was a month later. Same thing. She and Jake had another fight, this time about having kids. Claire said she wasn't ready. Jake wanted to start a family right away, and things got heated. She stormed out and came straight to my place. Once again, I let her stay, but then it became more frequent. Over the past few months, Claire's visits became almost routine. At least once a week, sometimes twice. She'd show up unannounced, either angry or in tears, and spend hours unloading her frustrations on me. Jake this, Jake that. I'm done with him this time for real, she'd say every single time. But without fail, by the end of the weekend, she'd be texting him, making up, and heading back home as if nothing had happened. Rinse and repeat. Each time she left, I'd feel drained, both emotionally and mentally. Tom, who had been incredibly patient throughout all of this, started to get visibly frustrated. Couldn't blame him. Our quiet weekends were constantly interrupted, our plans put on hold. Sometimes, we'd be in the middle of dinner or a movie, and the door would swing open with Claire on the verge of another breakdown. "Claire, you need to figure this out," Tom said one evening after she'd left. His tone was calm but firm. "It's starting to affect us." "I know," I sighed. "I just don't know how to tell her no. She's my sister. I feel like I have to help." Tom rubbed my shoulders, trying to soothe me. "I get that, but she's using us as her crutch. And it's not fair to us, to you. You deserve peace in your own home." I knew he was right, but confronting Claire felt like walking through a minefield. Claire's emotions could swing wildly, and she wasn't the type to take criticism well. Last weekend was the final straw. Tom and I had planned a quiet, relaxing weekend together. We'd both been stressed from work and needed some downtime. We had it all planned out. A lazy Saturday binge-watching Netflix, homemade pasta for dinner, and maybe even some wine by the fireplace. I was really looking forward to it. But on Friday night, Right as Tom was about to open a bottle of wine, we heard the doorbell. I instantly knew who it was. There was Claire, standing on the porch with her overnight bag, red-faced and teary-eyed. "I can't deal with him anymore," she said, brushing past me and heading straight for the couch. I glanced back at Tom, who raised his eyebrows but said nothing. I could feel the tension in the air. We had both been looking forward to this weekend, and now it was slipping through our fingers. "What happened this time?" I asked, sitting next to her. Claire launched into another story about how Jake had been talking to one of his exes. Completely innocent, according to him, but Claire had blown up. They fought. She accused him of being disloyal. He yelled back, and she stormed out. The same pattern. This time, though, I couldn't hold back. "Claire, you can't keep doing this," I said, interrupting her mid-rant. She stopped talking, looking at me like I just slapped her. "What do you mean?" "I mean this," I gestured around the room. "You keep showing up here every time you and Jake fight, and it's wearing me down. I love you, and I want to help, but I can't keep being your escape every time things get tough. You and Jake need to work this out, or..." I hesitated but then said it. "Or maybe you need to leave him for real." Her face turned bright red. "I thought I could count on you," she snapped. "You're my sister. What am I supposed to do if not come here when things get bad? I understand that you're struggling, but Tom and I have lives too. Our home is being disrupted constantly, and I'm starting to feel like I'm walking on eggshells, waiting for the next blow-up. You can't keep running from your problems and expecting us to fix them." Her eyes welled up with tears, but I could see the anger bubbling underneath. "You don't understand what it's like. You and Tom have it so easy. Jake and I have real problems. That's not fair," I shot back. "Just because Tom and I don't scream at each other doesn't mean we don't have issues. We work on our marriage, and you need to decide if you're going to work on yours or leave him." Claire stood up, grabbing her bag. "Fine, I'll never bother you again. Clearly, I can't count on you anymore." "Claire, that's not what I'm saying," I started, but she was already heading for the door. "Don't worry about it," she snapped. "I'll figure it out on my own." She slammed the door behind her, leaving me standing there, feeling both relieved and guilty. Tom walked up beside me, rubbing my back. "I know that was hard, but it needed to be said. It's been a week, and I haven't heard from Claire since that night. I'm torn. On one hand, I know I needed to set boundaries for the sake of my own marriage and mental health. But on the other hand, I feel like maybe I let her down when she needed me the most. My mom called me 2 days ago, saying Claire had been staying with her. She wasn't happy with me. "You know Claire's going through a tough time," she said. "You should be more supportive." "I've been supporting her for months," I replied, trying not to get defensive. "But I can't keep sacrificing my own peace for her fights with Jake. It's not sustainable." Now I'm left wondering if I was too harsh, or if I'm in the right for finally standing up for myself and my home. Am I the a-hole? *** edit for context ***. Some of you have asked why Claire hasn't left Jake if things are so bad. That's the frustrating part. She always says she's done, but then they make up and fall back into the same toxic pattern. I've suggested couples counseling, individual therapy, everything, but she never follows through. It's just constant drama with no resolution, and it's exhausting. Part 2. The unexpected twist. Hey Reddit, I didn't expect my last post to blow up the way it did. And honestly, I'm grateful for all the advice and perspective you guys shared. I've thought about what you said about setting boundaries, being there for my sister, and making sure my own marriage didn't suffer. So here's the update because, well, a lot has happened since then, and things took a turn I never could have expected. So buckle up because this is wild. After the last big blow-up with Claire, where I told her she couldn't keep using my home as a refuge, I expected some drama. But instead of the shouting or angry texts I braced myself for, Claire did something that surprised me. She ghosted me. She went radio silent for days, then weeks. No calls, no texts, no drop-ins. At first, I felt guilty. Maybe I had been too harsh on her. Maybe she really needed me, and I pushed her away. But after a few quiet weekends with Tom, I realized how much peace had returned to my life. Tom, being the rock that he is, kept telling me, Claire has to learn to handle her own problems, babe. You can't always be her crutch. He'd say it in his calm, logical tone, but I knew it wasn't easy for him either. He hated seeing me torn between family loyalty and the need for our own space. One evening, as we were cooking dinner together, something we hadn't been able to do without interruptions in months, I finally asked Tom, "Do you think I made a mistake?" He paused, setting the knife down on the cutting board. "No," he said after a moment. "I think you did what you had to do, but whether it's the right decision, only time will tell." I chewed on that for a while, and as much as I missed Claire, despite how exhausting her constant dramas were, I had to admit that life without her crises was kind of liberating. But that peace didn't last. About 2 weeks after the blow-up, I got a call from my mom. She didn't beat around the bush, going straight into guilt mode, as she often does when it comes to Claire. "Your sister's been staying with me," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. "You know she's not doing well, right?" "I figured," I replied, feeling my stomach twist. "But she hasn't reached out. I assumed she needed space." "Well, she's mad at you," Mom said, in that tone that always made me feel like a scolded kid. "She thinks you abandoned her when she needed you." I felt a flicker of anger flare up. "I didn't abandon her, Mom. I needed boundaries." Tom and I were constantly walking on eggshells, waiting for the next meltdown. It wasn't fair to us. "I know, but you're her sister," Mom said softly. "She's going through a rough time. Maybe you should reach out." I could feel the guilt creeping back in, but this time I pushed it down. "Mom, I've been there for her through every rough time. She's never tried to fix things with Jake. She just runs." Mom sighed. "I'm just saying, maybe give her a call. She needs to know she's not alone." After I hung up, I sat with the phone in my lap for a long time, staring at it. Tom came over, resting his hand on my shoulder. "Your mom, huh?" I nodded, feeling conflicted. "Yeah, apparently, Claire's been staying with her." Tom sat down beside me. "Are you going to call her?" I shrugged. "I don't know. I feel bad, but I don't know if I can go back to how things were." Tom didn't push. He just kissed my forehead. "Do what's right for you. But remember, you've already done more than enough for Claire. She has to want to change." I knew he was right, but that didn't stop me from feeling guilty. And when I finally did reach out to Claire, I wasn't prepared for what was about to unfold. A few days later, I called Claire. I half expected her to ignore my call or give me the cold shoulder, but to my surprise, she picked up right away. "Hey," I said cautiously. "Hi," she replied, her voice sounding distant, tired. "Look, I just wanted to check in. I know things were tense between us, and I didn't want you to think I wasn't here for you. I just needed some space, you know?" There was a long pause on the other end. Then, Claire sighed deeply. "I get it. I do. I've been a mess. I shouldn't have dumped all my problems on you. But," her voice cracked and she inhaled sharply, "I can't do this anymore. I can't do him anymore. Jake, he cheated on me." My heart sank. "Oh, Claire, I'm so sorry. I found out a few days ago," she continued, her voice shaky. I went through his phone. I shouldn't have, but I knew something was off. There were messages, pictures. He's been seeing someone else for months." I didn't know what to say. Claire had always been volatile in her relationship, but this felt like the final straw. "Did you confront him?" "Yeah," she whispered, her voice small. "He didn't even deny it. He said he wasn't happy, that he felt like I was always pushing him away. Can you believe that? He cheated and somehow, it's my fault." "Claire, it's not your fault. That's just his way of deflecting. You can't let him manipulate you into thinking that." She sobbed quietly on the other end of the line. "I don't know what to do anymore. I can't go back to him, but I feel so stuck. Like I wasted years of my life on someone who never cared." For the first time in months, I felt the pull to protect her again. This was different from the usual fights and drama. This was real, gut-wrenching betrayal. "Claire, listen to me. You don't have to go back. You can get through this. Move forward. I'll be here for you, but you need to start thinking about what's best for you. You deserve better than this." "I don't even know what better looks like," she muttered. In the days that followed, Claire decided to stay at my mom's house while she figured things out. She didn't go back to Jake, which honestly shocked me because in the past, they always made up after a fight. But this time, she was done. The divorce process started quickly, and it wasn't pretty. Jake, predictably, didn't take things well. He refused to sign the papers at first, sending Claire manipulative texts about how he still loved her, how he wanted to fix things. It was classic Jake, gaslighting her into feeling guilty for standing up for herself. But Claire stood her ground. "I'm not going back to him," she told me one night over the phone. "I can't. He destroyed whatever was left of our relationship, and now I just feel numb." "I'm proud of you," I said, meaning it. "It takes a lot of strength to walk away, even when you know it's the right thing." Claire laughed bitterly. "Strength? I don't feel strong. I feel like a shell of myself." "It'll take time," I said softly. "But I'm here for you, and you've got Mom too. You don't have to do this alone." As the divorce dragged on, things started to get weird. Jake began sending Claire gifts, flowers, jewelry, even handwritten letters saying he was sorry and wanted her back. At first, it seemed like a typical case of guilt, but then the tone of the letters shifted. They became more erratic, more hostile. He started accusing her of ruining his life, of turning him into a monster. Claire was freaked out. One night, she called me in a panic. "He left a note in my car. I don't even know how he got in here. Claire, this is escalating. You need to document everything." I told her, my heart racing. "I have been," she said, her voice trembling, "but I'm scared. He's acting unhinged." And then, it all came crashing down. A few weeks later, Claire called me, her voice frantic. "Turn on the news. Right now." Confused, I grabbed the remote and flicked on the TV. My jaw dropped. There was Jake's face plastered across the screen, and not for reasons either of us could have predicted. Jake had been arrested, not for harassment or anything related to Claire, but for embezzlement. He'd been siphoning money from his company for years, funneling thousands of dollars into secret accounts. Claire had no idea. As it turns out, while Jake was busy harassing her and trying to win her back, the authorities were closing in on him for fraud. "He's going to prison," Claire said, her voice a mix of shock and relief. "I can't believe this. All this time, I didn't know." And just like that, the harassment stopped. Claire was finally free. With Jake out of the picture, Claire's life started to settle. She finalized the divorce, and without Jake's interference, the process went much smoother than expected. She's now focused on rebuilding her life, looking for a new place, starting therapy, and actually taking time to heal. As for me, Claire and I have been slowly rebuilding our relationship too. It's still a work in progress, but she's starting to understand the importance of boundaries. And Tom and I, we're stronger than ever. The chaos has subsided, and I finally feel like we can breathe again. So, was I the A***hole for setting boundaries? I don't think so. If anything, it might have saved Claire and me from an even bigger disaster.